So for this hip mobility and strengthening activation drill, we're going to look at loosening off hip flexors, glute med, piriformis, some of the muscles that internally and externally rotate your femur. Yeah. Limited internal and external rotation causes all sorts of problems when you're squatting, deadlifting, lunging, those kind of things. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that everything has a good range of motion, so it's not too short or too tight, but it's also strong, so it's not weak. So a lot of the limitations in movement are caused by excessive tightness and weakness. So what we're going to do, we're going to use a variety of tools to release your hip flexors, your glutes, all the muscles around your hip on both sides. Then we do a series of just leg movements to try and strengthen or activate those muscles. They are in there, you can talk to them, we just got to get them firing at the right time. So we have a foam roller, we have a lacrosse ball, and we have a medicine ball. You can use any one of these things. The foam roller is probably the least invasive. The lacrosse ball is the most invasive. You're going to get the most pressure through the lacrosse ball. The medicine ball is just there if you haven't got a foam roller or a small ball. You can use a large ball, but I would prefer this or this. So if you're going to use your foam roller, how are we going to start? We're going to think about hip bone, yeah, so the boniest bit at the front of your hip. Think you'll place the edge of your heel of your hand on that bit and reach down. This is the line I want you to sort of roll. So it's just underneath or in front of your pocket on here. So you're going to start off, if we do it facing this way, I'm going to get my hip right up by the bone, onto the roller. I'm going to have the leg that I'm not rolling is out in front of me, bent 90 degrees on my elbow, and I can just roll into the hip here. So I'm looking for any tight sore spots. I don't want to roll like I'm rolling pastry, but I want to spend a little bit of time going nice and slowly. If there's any sore spots, I'm just going to spend a little bit of time pausing on them and rolling back and forward. So for me, just there, I can feel you might have to move your body just a little bit, so rotating backwards and forwards to find those jammy spots, but just spend a little bit of time on them. Once we've spent about 60 seconds on that front of the hip, we're then going to roll, so we're on our glute. Yeah? So if I turn the roller so you can see me, I'm going from here on one end of the roller, I'm then going to roll over, so I'm on the side of my bum, there with my leg out straight to start off with, and I'm going to roll all the way under to my hip, and then come back along to the bottom of my glutes. Yeah, I'm looking again for the same thing, any jammy, tight bits that are a little bit sore. I don't want this to, if you get any referred pain, so you get shooting pain up and down the leg or up and down the back, stop. But if you're going over a few knots and it feels uncomfortable but not like you're going to die, that's alright. Yeah. Then we're going to cross this leg over this knee. Yeah, so this then stretches out or activates the external rotator, and if there's anything that's tight, we can roll into it. Again, you might just have to have a play. So for me, if I go there and go under, that's a little bit tight in there, so I can spend a little bit of time on that hip. From there, all you're going to do once you've spent, again, about 60 seconds on your right glute, is you roll over on the roller and do the same on the left glute. So we can start with the leg straight. Again, if you're really, really tight, you might feel some stuff with your leg straight. Shouldn't feel anything too severe, but spend 20-30 seconds just having a roll up under the hip. Then cross that knee over, opposite hand onto that knee, and then we play up and around under the hip bone through the glute. Again, you spend about 60 seconds on there. You can explore fine bits. If I just go to there, there's a little knot. Yeah, so you have to play around on the roller. Find where you are tight. Everyone is different. Once we've spent 60 seconds on that hip or that glute, we then roll over. And again, we're going to go back to the side here. Yeah, so you're going now through that hip flexor. So if you are doing this at the start of your session, you can start off on one hip, find those tight bits on the hip flexor, then we roll onto the glute, and then we cross our leg over. So we're spending about 60 seconds in each of these positions. We roll onto the other glute, we cross our leg over, and then we roll over onto the other hip. And we've worked our way through the whole hip complex, up and down, doing some releasing on the roller. If that does not have the desired effect, you can use the lacrosse ball. You do exactly the same thing on the lacrosse ball. We start on the hip flexor, or just in front of the hip bone, and I'm just rolling around on that lacrosse ball. Yeah. Seeing if anything is tight. From there, I'm going to get into my glute side, my bum, right up under the hip. Then I'm going to cross over here, same thing. Looking for any, just there, there's a bit that's a little bit tender. So when I feel that, I'm just going to sit on there, take a couple of deep breaths, and then keep rolling. With the lacrosse ball, if you use one, or a tennis ball, just don't roll around too aggressively. Look at spending a little bit of time on specific trigger points. Don't mash it around as if you're trying to break anything up. So there's a little hot spot. I'm going to pause there. Just have a little play on it. And then I would again roll over and do the other hip flexor. So a really simple way to get across the whole of the hip complex, hitting your hip flexors and your external rotators, your glutes. You do exactly the same with the medicine ball. It's just another tool for getting in there and mashing up that soft tissue. From here, what we're going to do, we've now released some of the tension. So now we're going to look to activate some of the muscles. So we're going to start lowering our side. I'm on my right side. I'm going to use my right arm as a pillow, left hand is here. I'm going to think about bracing my abs, keeping everything in line, and then I'm going to lift my top leg up slightly, lift it back. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to do 10 abductions, or lifting the leg up in the air, under control. And we should be starting to get some activation in the glute here. Yeah, so this is contracting to lift the leg up. From there, I'm going to make big circles. So I'm going to do 10 circles forwards, as big as I can make them, and drop. I'm then going to reverse direction with that circle. So I'm flexing the hip, then extending the hip as much as I can. I'm then going to lie on my back, and I'm going to lift my legs straight up in the air. Again, keeping my abs engaged, back flat on the floor. I'm then going to repeat that on the other side. I'll go sideways so you can see what's happening with the legs. So again, my body's in a straight line. Left hand's a pillow, leg goes back, then up and down. Then we make circles, flexing and extending the hip. I'm then going to reverse the direction of those circles, trying to minimise the movement from my body. From there, we lie on our back, and we do 10 leg raises. Abs are on, so I'm sucking my belly button into the floor, really activating the hip flexors, waking everything up. And that is a quick hip mobility and activation drill that can really help with this internal and external rotation that goes on through the femur. Release everything, activate everything, get your hips moving.